I'm going to give you a Panama real estate market update. This year has been quite dynamic, honestly. It's been an exciting year to be in Panama. So I thought we should chat about it. For those of you, I took some notes from the last live because I didn't give anyone a heads up before we did the last one. So I took some notes of the questions that you guys had put in that video. And on top of those, at the end of this, we're going to be answering more questions. You guys feel free as we go to throw questions there in the box. And as we go, I'll either take some breaks and answer them, or we'll answer at the end. So we'll just have to see as we go. But I'm going to let's say we'll give it 2 minutes and let people kind of filter in. Those of you, I don't know where everyone's tuning in from, whether it's US, Canada, Europe, Panama. Today was a rainy one here. Can't always say that that's the case in rainy season, but today it was. And if I start to sound ridiculous, I didn't have any voice at all over the weekend. So I have 3 small kids that like to sneeze or cough directly onto mom. So today's my actual first day with a voice, but I haven't talked that much. So if I start to lose it along the way, that's why. Okay. So let's get started. I'm not going to dive right into the real estate part of it. I'm going to give you kind of a big picture. There's lots of pieces that feed into why the real estate market is how it is at the moment. So the first one, I mean, I've been here 10 years. It's gonna be 11 years actually, coming up on 11 years. And Panama during that time, I mean, has faced some challenges. So a big one that Panama would have faced, I mean, the whole world faced it, but Latin America, especially COVID would have hit Latin America hard because there's a lot of people when you shut down that need to work today to eat tomorrow. So Panama, I mean, the whole shutdown during COVID would have hit Panama pretty hard. There was some protesting that happened with a specific. It was a passing of a bill that included a mine here. So Panama has had kind of its ups and downs, but right now, I mean, a lot of that is behind us. And Panama has. I don't want to say the stars are aligning. I don't want to say it's a perfect storm, but Panama has a lot of positive things that are going for it right now that have created the market, the real estate market that you see today. Where is it? Okay. So what would that be? Panama is, until it becomes a necessity, it's not always a focus, if that makes sense. I'm going to give you an example. So tourism, Panama has not needed international tourism because realistically, it's not dependent on it. So in places like Costa Rica, where it's dependent on tourism, in places like, I mean, Riviera Maya, there's a lot that goes into promoting the country from a tourism perspective that Panama has not done a good job of, just for the pure fact of it hasn't needed to. Panama has a very healthy internal ecosystem I mean, you have the canal, number one, you have a really large free trade port, you have a huge banking sector, you have a huge multinational, there's so many multinationals here in Panama. Somebody from Texas, we have somebody here from Texas, not that far. I flew the direct flight from Austin, and I'm going to get sidetracked, but Panama hasn't needed the tourism piece. Would it be beneficial to the country? Absolutely, but it hasn't needed it. But what we're starting to see is, and I think it's from a variety of factors. I wrote a few down here so I wouldn't forget them, but one of them, I mean, there's a global shift in people that maybe vacation to parts of the US like Florida before. And if you're going from Canada, you're going from Europe, you're coming from other places, maybe it's not that easy to get to the US anymore. Maybe it's not that easy to get a visa to go to the US. So people are looking outside of that. Maybe you traveled parts of Europe, and maybe those parts of Europe right now aren't that stable. Maybe there's a war that's, not too far from some of the borders. So the people that maybe would have vacationed to those areas are looking for alternatives. And Panama has become an alternative for I mean, on a daily basis, I deal with North Americans, that being from the US, from Canada. I deal with a lot of Europeans right now, a good amount of Germans, the Dutch, French. I'm trying to think of people I've interacted with in the last 2 weeks. Luxembourgians, I think, from Luxembourg. So a lot of people that maybe would have vacationed elsewhere are looking at Panama. Actually, organically, I was at Santa Maria Hotel. This was about a week and a half ago, about 10 days ago, filming. And I met with one of the general managers there, and I was just kind of picking his brain, trying to understand because I was trying to get a feel for how some of their, were they booked or not, basically, their occupancy rates. And as I was chatting with him, I mean, he gave me there's something you do in Panama where it's like, which means people are like, "Ooh," like a lot, yeah? So he went like this, and then he was like, "You wouldn't believe it." He's like, "From basically now, which should be like a slower season, to March of next year," and he really emphasized, let's say December to March. He was like, "We're almost completely booked." He's like, "I almost don't have a room." So I went on a Tuesday, and it came up in conversation because, 1, I wanted to know, and 2, I was there on a Tuesday, and I was like, "It's a Tuesday at 10, and this place is packed." So if it's packed on a Tuesday, I imagine on the weekends it's even more packed. And I walked by some of the rooms where they have events, and it was like wedding, like they had already placed. There were corporate events, and there were weddings, and there were just a lot going on. So he was telling me how, in general, from a hotel perspective, the beginning of 2026 is a lot of the hotels in Panama City are already, if not fully booked, at the 85%, 90% occupancy right now. So they expect to be fully booked by beginning of 2026. Connectivity is also a huge thing. So Panama just keeps adding, thanks to Copa in large part, direct flights. This one's not Copa specifically, but I think it's WestJet just added a direct flight from Calgary, which I mean makes getting to Panama easier. Um, and Panama was recently removed from the European gray list. So maybe Europeans that I've actually done, if you guys have heard, it's called A Place in the Sun shows, where a lot of Europeans will go and look for summer homes. A lot of the Europeans that I interacted back then, which that would have been over 10 years ago, like maybe didn't, I don't want to say they didn't know Panama existed, but a lot were more focused on places like Orlando or the southern coast of Spain. When a lot of those places now, you compare Panama in overhead costs or taxes or residency, it's a lot easier to get residency, and your overhead's going to be a lot lower here in Panama. So maybe those Europeans that would have previously looked other places like southern Spain or Portugal or Orlando are now looking at Panama. And since it's off the gray list, it just makes it easier. It makes it easier because it's easier to move money here. From a logistical standpoint, it's easier to get like bank to bank, less reporting, like they had very strict reporting standards that's loosened up a bit. Okay, let me move down on my list. So you have, I mean, this is a big one. Panama has, for corporate relocation and economic strength. So Panama has some of the most multinational corporations in the region. A lot of them are focused in specific areas in Panama City. There's an area in Costa del Este. So there's a good in Costa del Este where it's close to the airport, it's close to a lot of modern services. If you are coming from North America or Europe, it's going to be one of the softest landings for you because if you come to downtown Panama City, downtown, which is like the banking district, Marbella, Bella Vista, Avenida Balboa, grew very quickly. And with explosive growth comes some growing pains. So some of those growing pains would be electricity. I mean, the electricity the that is needed. I mean, it's all above ground here in downtown Panama City. When you go somewhere like, and sidewalks, your sidewalk will just end. But if you look at somewhere that's master planned, so if you look at somewhere like Costa del Este, Santa Maria, the electricity is below ground. They have sidewalks. They have sidewalks. It's manicured. Like it feels a lot more first world. You could, close your eyes and wake up and feel like, hey, maybe I'm in a nice neighborhood in Florida or Arizona or some of the top golf places around the world when you look at in comparison to Santa Maria. So from a multinational company standpoint, I'm rambling. From a multinational company standpoint, it's very comfortable for North Americans or Europeans to relocate their employees here in a place like Costa del Este or Santa Maria, as opposed to somewhere like downtown Panama City. You also have, and it's not just the ones that are here now. I would encourage you subscribe to or even find on Instagram Forbes Latin America, Forbes Latam, because on if not weekly basis, if on a monthly basis, there's always a new company that is announcing that they're moving their regional headquarters or some even their actual headquarters to Panama. A recent one, I mean, they were here originally, they left, now they're coming back. Chiquita Banana just announced that they're coming back. Huawei's coming back. Anheuser-Busch announced that they're moving regional headquarters here. If you just look up multinational companies in Panama, I mean, the list is extensive. And once in that specific area, there's over 140 of them. A lot of them get major tax incentives for being here. So it's a really interesting piece of this real estate puzzle. Okay. Also, with that, with that comes the residency piece. So a big driver, at least for people that are looking at this from an investment angle, maybe you're not fully ready to completely commit and move overseas, which there are a lot of people that are doing so, but maybe you're looking at this from a plan B perspective, a residency perspective. That is a huge driver of the real estate market that you're seeing today would be the qualified investor visa. So Panama has one of the best visas by investment that exists in the world right now. It's very easy and it's very fast. It also has an end date on it, or an end date on the price point. So right now, the qualified investor visa has a $300,000 minimum investment to qualify for residency. And that residency, you can get permanent residency within, if you have a good lawyer, 30 to 45 days. They also just announced, and I'm going to read this so I don't mess it up. They also just announced Bill 299, which already passed the 3 legislative stages. It just awaits the presidential signature, the president, which is kind of more of a formality than anything. But that gives you an official residency document. So not only do you get the permanent residency, but it comes with its own travel documentation that you can use when traveling to and from Panama. Okay, so that has been a major driver for the real estate market. Why? Because there's a time stamp on it. So basically, this $300,000 price point has been approved between now and it's October of 2026, in which that's supposed to go up to 500,000. So if you look at that, let's say uncertain markets or unstable countries, which I'm not going to call the U.S. or Canada unstable, but it's experienced some waves, to say the least, or Europe or different European countries where I talk to Germans on a daily basis, and they're saying that they have drones over some of their major airports. Those people want a plan B, so they're looking at Panama from that residency perspective, and not just North Americans and Europeans, which we tend to think of first because we all look at it from our lens. But if you look at the countries around Panama, if you look at Colombia, if you look at Venezuela, if you look at even Peru, a lot of those people are also looking for a second residency, a second passport, because maybe the passport that they travel on right now isn't that great of a passport, or they want somewhere that is a dollarized economy and a stable market. Yeah, low taxes, all of the above. So all of kind of those pieces are making for a really interesting real estate market right now in Panama. When I moved here 10 years ago, the prices of Panama the cheap days of Panama are long gone. Let's say cheap, You can still find that outside of Panama City, but the rents at that time didn't keep up with the price of real estate. So people were paying, paying what they were for condos, and the rents were not keeping up with the price of condos. That has definitely self-corrected. Not self-corrected, the market has corrected itself. When rents right now in Panama are really interesting. They're really interesting. Hot spots. Okay. To then talk about Panama real estate market. The fastest growing areas of Panama, because again, you can have things that sit on the market for a while and other places that sell above asking price the day it's listed. The really fast growing markets right now would definitely be Costa del Este and Santa Maria. That will be kind of for your upper middle class. Ocean Reef Islands. Ocean Reef Islands, is nearly sold out, but Ocean Reef Islands it moved extremely fast. Then if you look at, let's say, for the middle class Panamanian Latino worker, it would be, you can look at places like Arraijana or Chorrera, because those places are becoming a lot more connected. So Vacamonte also, for example, where we have a project Bayside, those projects right now, you have to drive in the Pan American Highway to arrive to Panama City, which you plug up at the two bridges at the moment. But right now there's over, I think it's $2.8 billion being put into infrastructure, which is going to connect those areas even more so with Panama City. So give it 3 years. And once that area is connected with Panama City, I mean, that specific area in the market is also very interesting. So from a real estate market perspective, right now is probably the most exciting time that I have been here in 10 years to be a part of, because again, not to sound corny, but the stars are aligning for Panama. It's staying low from a tax perspective. It has a good residency by investment program. You have lots and lots of banking here. You have lots of multinational corporations. You have an environment that has been set up to allow for commerce and industry, basically, and a lot of people want to be a part of it. So Panama real estate market is growing at a very quick pace right now. Let me check my notes and see if I forgot anything that I wanted to touch on. I think that's it. I'm going to open it up for questions. If you guys want to start putting your questions in here, I have questions from the last live stream. Let's start here. Is there a good place to find places to rent? We're looking at Pedesi, Boquete, and San Carlos. So my Pedesi, Boquete, and San Carlos, I would encourage you, if you know Panama, if you haven't been to Panama, first of all, come and do short-term, medium-term rentals in each one of those places, because the ones you mentioned are very different from each other. San Carlos is going to be the closest to Panama City. Boquete and Pedesi. Boquete, you're looking at a mountain town. Pedesi will also be beach, like oceanfront. So it really depends on the lifestyle you want to live. And there's everything in between, right? So you can have like a super cheap beach rental or mountain rental, or you can find something. I've stayed in beautiful places in Boquete that are up in the mountains. You look down kind of on the valley. So there's everything in between. But is there a good place to find places to rent? You can always look on Encuentra 24, So Encuentra 24 is going to be like a local marketplace that you can find rentals. It's been a while since I've looked for rentals online for myself. I would say start there. Start on Encuentra 24 for rentals. You just plug in Panama, because there's also, I think you can do Costa Rica and a few other countries around. But look on there, and if you don't find them, drop me a note and I'll help you look for it. I'll give you other options. Okay, Jimmy left me about 4 questions on the last live stream afterwards. So he put, when you buy a condo, what are other costs and how much are they? So that is, I don't want to say a very broad question, Jimmy, but it's a very broad question, Jimmy. So you can find everything in downtown Panama City, from I mean, a cost of a condo can go from $150,000 to in the multi-million dollars. I'm gonna pick a middle of the road example. Okay. I'm gonna pick a middle of the road example. So you could do, you could find a decent 3 bedroom in downtown Panama City, um, in a good area between 350 to $750,000. How much are they and what it costs? So you're going to have your ongoing cost for that will be annual property taxes, which the property tax is based off of the purchase price. Um, and if it's listed as your primary residence, you get the best. It's all bracket. It's in brackets. So if it's your only residence in Panama, you can list it as your primary residence, especially if you have residency. The other cost would be insurance. So insurance here would be super low. You'd look, especially depending on where you're coming from. I love talking insurance with like Floridians because let's say you buy a $350,000 condo, you would look at insurance for the year no more than 400 to 450 bucks a year. Um, the second question, Jimmy, and overhead costs, also running overhead costs would be electricity, which in Panama City, depending on how much you use your AC, you could spend anywhere from 150 to $400. I think you'd be safe saying, let's say 175 to 200, unless you're in a really, really big condo. Water and gas. Water and gas here is very cheap. Water and gas, you probably wouldn't look to spend over $20 a month on. Your HOA to the building. So HOA will be between, let's say, $2 and $3 a square meter. So again, based on the size and the amenities that come with your building. And then if you rent it out, I mean, you'd have the cost of property management, which is typically 10%. If long-term here in Panama City, it'd be 10% of what you're making. He says, why do I keep seeing the exact same condo on 3 different sites with a different price? So Panama technically has an MLS system. It's fairly recent. And I would say because Panamanians are used to not having an MLS system, it's kind of a free for all. I mean, you'll see this if you're looking for a rental too. There's a lot of what you call like bait and switch, where someone will find a very nice property, list it. Maybe they don't have the rights to be listing it, and just to get attention, just to get your number. So then when you write to them, like, hey, I really like this condo that you posted, they're like, actually, it just sold, but I have this one. So you'll see a lot of that. You'll also, I mean, I would say that's that's kind of the number one reason you'll see that. Jamie's third question, why do sellers refuse to lower their prices instead of listing condos for months/years? Do they not realize it's costing them thousands of dollars in HOA fees and property taxes? So I would say, one, don't assume that paying those HOA fees or property taxes might be hurting someone's net worth. What you can see in Panama would be people maybe don't even need to make money back on it. It's just a really strong asset for them to be sitting on because let's say they have assets in other countries where it's not, it's not such a steady country. It's not such a stable country. And because they believe that it's worth that, honestly. So those would be the 2 main reasons I would say, but it's because they can. They can because it's not hurting them enough with those overhead costs. If I were to buy a brand new condo, am I given a shell that I have to build out and finish before I can add my furniture and move in? So depends on the type of condo that you're buying. Typically, if you're buying directly from a developer, it will be what's called designer ready, which means no lights, no ACs, no furniture, no appliances. Why? Because Panama is very humid. So if a developer delivers you something with appliances or AC and it sits for any amount of time before it's sold, there's a good chance that those will go bad. So they don't include them in the price. It's deducted from the price. but it then falls on you to outfit it. I would encourage you to not try and do that by yourself because I have. I would encourage you to find a good designer, or I can recommend you a good designer or two to do that for you. Because waiting for a handyman or waiting for the what I, um, the the firemen have to come and basically the firemen. The firemen have to come and approve, let's say, gas hookups. Um, and if they tell you that they're coming on Tuesday at 8 a.m., you're lucky if they come Tuesday by 4 p.m. So it's a lot of sitting around, it's a lot of waiting. So I would always encourage you to use a good designer for those things. Mm. I own a jungle lodge in BDT. I'm not sure what BDT is, but would ideally easier access to property looking at Santa Maria, uh-huh. But the price point is significantly higher. I'd be amenable to renting. Entry point. So, yes, I would say I mean, jungle lodge sounds really cool, but a jungle lodge as you get further away from Panama City, your market gets smaller. So yes, Panama City is always going to be more expensive than other areas in the country, unless you're looking at like uber, kind of very expensive areas like Contadora, which would be like Pearl Islands. Um, but yes, Panama City will be on the top end of expensive, but it's also going to be the most convenient. It's also going to be the most well connected. Um, and a lot more people have reason to be in Panama City than they do in more remote areas. Yes. So, Santa Bocas del Toro, thank you. In Bocas del Toro, I own a jungle lodge in Bocas del Toro. That's why, which is beautiful, by the way. Um, Entry level pricing for Santa Maria, you could look at probably around the $500,000 mark. There might be some in the 450, 460 range, but realistically more at the $500,000 price point, and that would be probably for about 100 square meters, maybe less. Um, and then for rental perspective, renting in Santa Maria, you could probably find entry level pricing for renting around right around the 300, excuse me, the $3,000 a month mark. Maybe more. You might be able to, if it doesn't have furniture, around 2,700. That would probably be for a two-bedroom the most realistic. I'm trying to see. Okay, if you guys have more questions about Panama real estate, go ahead and throw them in the chat box, and I will answer them as we go. I had these also from the last webinar. Is it uncomfortable to live/work in temperatures? And he said it's usually when they check around 30 degrees Celsius. So I'm a Fahrenheit girl, so I'm gonna go back to Fahrenheit. But a lot of Panama, it depends. And I don't want to be giving you non-answers, but it depends is the answer. And what does it depend on? It depends on what it depends on. Hi, Chris and Nancy. Hi, guys. I'll get to your question next. It depends on the season. So during our summer here, you're going to have a really good breeze. It also depends on how close to water you are because the breeze from the ocean is usually very fresh. It depends on if you have the morning sun or the afternoon sun on your balcony or living space. So it depends on a good amount of things. I will say our summer here is very, very comfortable. It's very, very comfortable. It's really fresh. Rainy season will be, again, not every day, but on the days when it's really rainy or it's cloudy and it's gonna rain, those days is when it feels more like sticky, not quite as, it's not quite as breezy. That's why the beach is really nice because out by the beach, you always have a sea breeze, almost always have a really good sea breeze, which makes the humidity feel less. So is it uncomfortable to live and work? It depends on the day. Really, I would take, if you're weighing them on a scale, I would take Panama 1,000 times over dealing with cold winter months because the amount of, let's say, uncomfortable, sticky days is way less than the sloshy, cold, winter days that I grew up with. So I will get through the sticky days for the beautiful, beautiful summer days that we have here. Okay. Hi, Chris and Nancy. I hope you guys are good, and that you come and visit me soon. I think it's February when you're coming. Any updates on the progress of Ipanema? So Ipanema is we're finished digging down. I was just out there not last week, the week before, and we've already started. We've started building up. So we had to dig down. We had to get like below some of the water table there, and we're starting to build up. So hopefully we should have some construction photos for you soon. We need to send a drone up to get you some more recent pictures. But we haven't laid concrete or anything, but we're starting to build. We're putting in the big bars, basically the big pilings. Okay, I had another question here in my notes from the last one. Is your AC constant? This person's very interested in the weather. Is your AC constantly on, or do you have to have the windows open? So I kind of answered that before. Depends on the season, and it depends on which way you face. But you generally during summer, mornings and evenings are super fresh. In the middle of the day, I mean, it's still the tropics, so the midday is always going to be slightly warm. But if you have a good breeze during that time, again, it depends on which way you're facing. If you have other tall buildings around you that block the airflow, but generally, trying to think of the apartments that I've lived in while I've been here. The beach is beautiful. The beach, you don't have to have AC on during those times. But if you're close to water and you don't have another building blocking any sort of airflow, you can get away without AC in the mornings and the afternoons. I like to sleep with AC on though. Living in a high rise, is it better during hot days? It depends on other high rises around you if they block the air. So a lot has to do with airflow. A lot has to do with if you are in direct sunlight. The coolest apartments that I've been in previously, hi Ken. The coolest apartments that I've been in have morning sun because you get the fresh morning sun, and then you also want one that the breeze comes from all angles here, that is close enough to water or close enough to an open space, because now I live on a park, and the park also is, because it's open there, you get a good breeze. But morning sun will definitely be the coolest. And you don't want to have like in your immediate vicinity other tall buildings that are going to block your airflow. We have some other people here for Ipanema updates. Ipanema, hi Jeff. Hi Ken. I just mentioned, and you can go back and watch, but we're done digging down. We're done digging down. So now we're building up. We're putting in some of the big iron. We're doing the pilings basically, but I'll get some updated drone pictures for you guys. Yeah. Okay. Anything else, guys, while we're here hanging out on a Tuesday? No, it's a Monday. On a Monday, that shows you what life is like with 3 young kids. Okay. And if you guys come up with questions afterwards, feel free to throw them in the box below. Remember, I have an insider's guide. So if you guys are not a part of that, you can also sign up in the description box below. We're going to have a link there for you. Jesse. Last one. Also, as a reminder, I'm going to be doing these the last Monday of every month. So be sure to leave your questions, and I will answer them in the next section if I don't get to them here. And I mean, I leave also my contact details there if you can't wait until the next Monday of next month. But I'm going to be trying and do these for you guys on a regular basis, giving you updates on our projects. Yeah. So thanks for joining me on this Monday. I know you guys have a lot of other things you could be doing. So I appreciate you, and get in contact if you need anything. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching.